Hi everyone, the next tip I'm going to discuss with you regarding wedding receptions, I personally call the golden rule of wedding reception entertainment. And basically, the golden rule is very simple. All it is this. Don't have more time than 2 hours from the time the first guests arrive until the first dance. It's that simple. Now let me give you an example. In a typical reception, the guests may arrive at 5 o'clock. That would be your cocktail hour, 5 to 6. At 6 o'clock would be your dinner hour, 6 to 7. And then 7 to 11 would be your dancing. So there's the 6-hour typical wedding reception. Now if the guests come in at 5, keep in mind, they come earlier than expected. Everybody knows this. So the first guests are probably going to get there at about 1:45. They're not going to get there at 5 o'clock when you expect them to be. Most professionals anticipate this, but I can't tell you how many amateur disc jockeys I've seen in the past that they're still in their t-shirt at that point when those first guests come in. Not to mention there's no music being played. So number one, before we even get to the golden rule, keep in mind that guests will come earlier than you expect to the reception. If you put 5 o'clock, they're not going to pour in the door at 5 o'clock. If dinner's at 6, you have that full hour for cocktail music. Now when the first guests walk in the door at 4:45, let's say, you want to make sure you have everyone well dressed, everything is completely done setting up. We, our disc jockey company, Occasions Music, Acclaimed Entertainment, all of our affiliates, we're done setting up. Everybody is dressed from the time that first guest walks in the door. We even have that buffer in there. But the bottom line is, when no one's there and you have the first guest come in the room, the music, the background music, the atmosphere is more important than when people were there. Because this is the first impression. There's no one to take their mind. They're going to walk in. You don't want a disc jockey stringing cables. You want him fully dressed in his tux or in his suit, whatever it needs be. So first guests come in at 4:45, you want the cocktail music playing. You need background music. And that music technically should be a little bit different than the dinner music to give it more of a variety. Because you're going to have 2 hours of music before the first dance. You've got your cocktail hour, and then you have the dinner music hour. So what we recommend is you have a little bit faster upbeat music for dinner as you would for the cocktail hour. Now keep in mind, the guests are coming in at 4:45, you put down 5, dinner's going to be at 6. Dinner always runs longer than expected. So now you're going to have your first dance probably at about 10 after 7, even though you thought it was going to be 7. What's the problem with that? The guests have been sitting there for 2 hours now. The longer the guests are sitting down, the sooner they will go home, as soon as they get the opportunity. They're tired. They're tired. And it's especially handicapped for a disc jockey that wants to keep everybody involved, like us. In other words, you want to start off your wedding with a bang. When you start off the dancing at 7 o'clock, you don't want people sitting around. You want them to jump up on the dance floor. And you might say you need to play good music to do that. But on the other hand, you don't want to waste all the good music when they're not dancing. There are other videos that we're going to discuss how to get the people up dancing. And we're experts at this stuff. This is all that we do. We do weddings. A lot of disc jockeys only work once a Saturday. I'm the trainer here. Last year, I worked an average of 4 days per week. That's the average that we did. So we have a lot of experience doing this stuff. But if you don't use us, just make sure you have some system to get the people up right away. And you're going to find that reading our website, how to do that, and a lot of other things if you don't use us. If you use us, it's not an ordeal. But the golden rule, from the time the first guests arrive until the first dance, shouldn't exceed 2 hours. 2 hours is fine. But I'm telling you, a lot of the weddings, especially some of the country club weddings, they're going on close to 3 hours. I mean, that's so long for them to sit, especially if the guests end up coming a lot earlier. How can you help avoid this? Number one, sometimes people get forced to having a ceremony that's hours before the reception. Even though you tell them the reception's starting at 5, some people, especially the out-of-towners, are going to come to the reception earlier. And I've done a lot of receptions. I can't tell you how many times people are outside because the country club won't even open the doors until a set time. And that's not very nice. It's not a way to welcome your guests. But I'll tell you this, as a disc jockey, I prefer that as opposed to having them in there. Because if they're in there hours earlier, by the time the first dance starts, people are ready to go home. Anytime something major changes, whether, oh, now the dancing is beginning, oh, now it's the money dance, any major change in the evening, that's when people consider whether they should go home. So just keep that in mind when you're planning. It's a lot easier to plan this out in the planning stages way before the wedding as it is as you get closer to it. The golden rule, from the time the guests arrive to the first dance, shouldn't exceed 2 hours.